I want to thank some people who worked very, very hard to put together tonight. I want to start with our awards chairman, Will Lester, who's right here. And we'll take a bow. It takes a lot of energy and effort to pull together all of the judges and look at all the entries and making sure everything lands in on time and making sure I know what I'm saying on the script and all those other fun things. And I really appreciate everything you do, Will. Will's done this for a number of years. You know, every year a new president comes in and he has this sort of sheepish, I'll serve if you want me to serve. I was like, you're not going anywhere. So thank you, Will. We have, as far as from the staff standpoint, off to my left, you see Joanne Booz, who's going to be keeping the clock on me tonight and making sure I do everything right and everything proper. But she worked very closely with Will to administrate this entire process. And it's really, really important that we acknowledge the hardworking members of our staff that do these things. Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate you. And the leader of our team of staff members, Bill McCarron, who's down here, our executive director. And I never pass up a chance to ask you to join if you haven't joined. So you're going to have. So I want you to see Suzanne Striglinsky right down here, our director of membership, if you haven't joined or need to re-up. And there's so many more members of the staff here and the colleagues in the back and upstairs and everywhere else. That's just wonderful. And then next, I want to acknowledge my leadership team. There are members here from the Board of Governors, a couple of them tonight. Those of you who are here, please stand so I can recognize you. Danny, I see you out there somewhere. Produce Al-Farouk, our treasurer, is here tonight. Thank you very much. Our past presidents, there are a number of them in the House tonight. Tommy Burr, my predecessor, Angela Greiling-Keene, stand up and be acknowledged. Rick Dunham, who spends most of his time in China, came already back home. He's back home. Myron Belkind. You know, there are so many great, they call themselves the long gray line. I'm already gray, but not in that sense. And male or female, they call themselves the long gray line. Trust me on this one. But they're a great source of support. They're a great source of counseling. They're great. They counsel you when you're doing right and not so much. But that's good. It's both good, and it makes the club strong. And since 1908, we've had such a wonderful line of people that help us get to where we need to be and when we need to be there for the profession. Now, Will, you have a group of judges in here tonight. I want to, if you were judging the awards competition and you're in the room, I want you to stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And I think if I'm not making sure I'm not skipping any protocols, any big ones anyway. A number of people will be acknowledged throughout the evening as we progress, but I wanted to make sure I got the leadership team, make sure the people who are put everything together and so forth. Tonight, is going, and oh, wait a minute, I skipped somebody, didn't I, Suzanne? Where's Laura? Laura Coker. She's not here. I know she was in here earlier. She was circulating. She manages the Office of the President and keeps me together and works very closely with Suzanne and the rest of the membership team. So if I do something right, it's her fault. If I do something wrong, it's my fault. And any members of the National Press Club Journalism Institute board in the House tonight, or those? If you're here, please stand because you help with our scholarship efforts. And just making sure we say all the right things for a good reason, because you help get us these scholarships that we're going to be awarding tonight. Now, I talked earlier about freedom of the press and how crazy these first 7 months I've been as president. Hasn't been a lot of sleep. My predecessor said, have fun. I said, where, when? Not in this news cycle, but that's okay. It's been a distinct honor to be president of this club, really, and to be entrusted with this. And even though I joke about not having a whole lot of fun, that's fine because these are serious times. And they call for a serious coach. When I was sworn in on this stage in January, I dubbed this year to be a club of champions. And I'm glad to be the coach of such a wonderful team of people that are working through such a wonderful array of things that we've done over this past 7 months. We've had a wonderful lineup of headliners, anywhere when we were talking about healthcare right off the bat in the beginning of the presidency with the CEO of Pfizer, or body image with Misty Copeland, or world military affairs with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And just yesterday we had the Chief of Staff of the Army in breaking news fashion and talking about the transgender issue, and I thank Myron for stepping into me and moderating that panel, that particular luncheon. We have so many things that we've been doing in the newsmaker cycle, and then particularly in freedom of the press. John Donnelly, who's right here at the president's table, who's a living example of who's chair of our press freedom team, and has unfortunately had to withstand literally the physical abuse of security at the Federal Communications Commission. So he's not only had to talk the talk, he's had to walk the walk. And I was privileged to go to war for him, and all of us are privileged to have him as one of our fearless leaders in press freedom. And thank you, John. Yeah. And there's so many other things that happen in this club that you may not read about or see, whether it's making sure that, as we'll be dining tonight, you have, the social hour upstairs in the members bar and free Taco Fridays. As funny as that sounds, that's important because that's good fellowship and bringing the members together. And we have people going on trips to different parts of the region, cultural events, and so many other things that the members work so hard to put together to make sure this club is well-rounded. And I don't mind being the serious, scowling face all the time, while the rest of the folks make sure the rest of you have fun. But tonight is a fun night. And we're going to give out a whole lot of awards, as you can see behind me. And so we're going to move through them as quickly as possible. But we're going to do this with all due respect to all of the winners that we have tonight. So when your name is called, come to the stage. We'll do the grip and grin, and we'll keep it moving throughout. There will be some speaking portions tonight, but for the most part, if everybody had a speech, it would be like the Oscars. But we value each and every one of you and what you've contributed to the profession, and we love you nonetheless. So we're going to get right to it, and I think we have, where's Noel? You ready? The first category tonight is one of our most competitive in the National Press Club contest, consumer journalism. The awards recognize excellence in reporting on consumer topics, especially work that prompted action by consumers, the community, the government, or an individual. The winner of the Consumer Journalism Award for newspapers is the Chicago Tribune. For its package, Dangerous Doses by Sam Rowe, Carissa King, and Ray Long, that looked at fatal drug interactions and prompted significant reforms. Accepting the award is Sam Rowe. Come up here. Honorable mention goes to a team from Reuters for The Uncounted, a look at the ramification of superbugs, antibiotic-resistant bacteria that can cause chaos in healthcare. Congratulations are to Yasmin Boutaleb, excuse me, Yugani Torbate, and Yugani Torbate Schneer. Also, Ryan McNeil, Deborah Nelson, David Rode, and John Blanton, Benjamin Lesser. Please all come up to accept your honorable mention award if you're here tonight from Reuters. And forgive me, try to go through the pronunciations as carefully as possible. I pride myself as having started in radio, and I think I still screwed it up, so I apologize. I guess I got it right. The winner for Consumer Journalism for Periodicals is a project done by the Center for Public Integrity and the Associated Press called The Politics of Pain. Liz Easley White and Ben Weeder, the center, and Matthew Perrone and Jeff Mobilehill of the AP looked at strategies used by big pharmaceutical companies to thwart efforts to regulate the opioid painkiller abuse. Accepting the award is Liz Easley White. Where is she? Honorable mention goes to Kashmir Hill of Fusion for an innovative store in the use of some homes as default locations for mapping devices. Accepting the award is Kashmir Hill. I guess Kashmir's not here tonight. Didn't make it. We'll set that aside and hopefully we'll definitely get it to her. The winner of Consumer Journalism Broadcast is KPIX of San Francisco, California, for its package Toxic Safety. It took a look at the carcinogenic flame retardant chemicals in infant car seats, which prompted government and industry action to deal with this problem. Let's look at a sample of what they did.
New at 11, Julie Watts is here with some shocking results after she had her own daughter tested for a chemical also found in her car seat. And Julie, this is a popular car seat, pretty expensive as well, and they advertise as being eco-friendly.
They sure did, which is why I bought it. I reported on it for years before I actually purchased it. You know, as a consumer reporter, I've covered the debate over chemical flame retardants in products for years. What I've learned has certainly impacted my personal life, but never hit this close to home.
Long before my daughter was born, I swapped out my couch cushions on TV for a consumer story on flame retardant-free foam. After covering concerning flame retardants in baby products, I bought the recommended mattress, changing pad, and car seat advertised to be free of dangerous flame retardant chemicals, including TDCPP. So imagine our surprise when a biomonitoring study revealed our daughter had that flame retardant in her body. Coincidentally, we just tested her car seat for an unrelated consumer investigation. The next day, results from 3 independent labs confirmed it also contained TDCPP.
Congratulate KPIX. They can't make it tonight, but we're going to send the award right to them. Honorable mention goes to ABC News and Brian Ross Investigates for its investigation of shoddy home construction and its victims. We'll take a clip at their work.
In suburban Washington, D.C., the owner of this new home has a hole in her foundation and a snake that moved in underneath.
All up and down, and you hear the same kind of things.
The people in this new subdivision in Virginia say they know the feeling, with great-looking houses on the outside and a long list of problems on the inside.
It's very upsetting because it's the most expensive purchase any of us are going to make.
And it happened to Simone Engel of Birmingham, Alabama, whose $400,000 brand new home had bouncy, creaky floorboards
It's like playing music.
that had to be ripped up, and a messed up drainage system that was fixed by the builder only after ABC News got involved.
Brian and his team couldn't be here. As you can see, journalism does matter, especially consumer journalism. And we'll definitely send this award to them. We're gonna take a pause now because it's dinner time. So enjoy your meal, and we'll be back after dinner for more awards and scholarships. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we're having dessert now, and I see wine glasses being filled early and often on the tables for those who indulge. But we want to keep the program moving. And if you can take your seats, that'd be wonderful, and then we'll continue with the program. So, how was dinner? So let's thank our staff for definitely preparing a wonderful dinner tonight. It's scholarship time. This is a great treat for me because I'd said earlier that I wasn't having a lot of fun in this job because of the nature of the news cycle. Well, I kind of lied a little bit, only in the sense that one of the most rewarding parts of being National Press Club president is picking up the phone and calling a scholarship winner and their parents if they happen to be with us. Because you hear through the phone the sense of, oh my God. And you hear that sense of this is the shot. This is the window this is the door that's being opened for them to pursue a career in journalism. And we started giving out formally scholarships about 17 years ago in 2000. Well, actually more than that, but at least since 2000, we have been keeping track of our scholarships. And we have sent at least 50 bright young folks to colleges and universities everywhere to help realize their full potential. Now, I would clap that, but those of you who know me know that I'm a kid from Pittsburgh, and I'm a Penn State graduate, and I believe in scholarships because that's what got me through school. 50 is not enough. So I want to mark something on your calendar. Some of you know that every year we also hand out the Fourth Estate Award, which is to the most deserving people who've achieved a lifetime of work in the profession. And that's where we raise a boatload of money for scholarships. So circle October 4th on your calendar. And on that night, we're going to celebrate Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, whom I named as our winners this year. And I want to raise a very large 6-digit figure that night. So I'm raising the bar because that's what helps propel scholarships. That's what helps propel press freedom. That's what helps propel journalism, education, and excellence and advocacy. Because it's important to defend the profession. It's important to have more people coming into the profession, which is what I'm about to do. And it's important to defend their right to practice the profession. Because that's what is one of the most challenging but most rewarding parts of this job. Defending the Constitution and making sure that somebody's coming behind me so they can defend it when I'm too old and gray to do it. So I really ask you to contribute to the National Press Club Journalism Institute so that we can do the things that we do best. And we're so proud of the work that my counterpart, Barbara Cochran, if you don't know who she is, Barbara has been in so many great stations of leadership in our profession, leading RTDNA, being executive producer of Meet the Press, CBS Washington bureau chief, you name it, there's a whole list of accomplishments that she has. And I'm proud to work with her to make sure that we can do the things that I just said we can do. My wonderful vice president, who usually does this job, and she helped worked with Will in concert in terms of judging scholarships, can't be here tonight, and I'm bummed about that because she's a wonderful and able partner in this team that we have here at the National Press Club. But she sends her love, especially to the scholarship recipients, because this is something that is very, very, very near and dear to her heart. And we're going to hear from those amazing students and their families tonight. So we're going. The lovely thing about this is that I don't have paper. I'm being green tonight, and that's a good thing because usually this is the presidential iPad that I can give to my successors. And that's important because we're good stewards of the environment as well. So as soon as the technology cooperates, we're going to bring up the scholarship award winners. Give me a moment. Sorry, loading. While I'm getting this together, the families of the scholarship awards, if they can just get themselves ready, because I'm going to call you up. Warning to the scholarship winners, you're going to speak tonight. Okay, so the first scholarship we're going to give out is the National Press Club Scholarship for Journalism Diversity. This is the kind of scholarship that makes it easy, well, not easier, for folks like me to get into the profession, to make it more look like the country that we celebrate. So, the first winner, hold on. Mark, the first winner is Tatiana Monet. Now, come on up. I'm going to bring somebody up. Where's my membership secretary, Michelle Salcedo? Come up here, because there's a special connection to this winner. Tatia is a daughter of a journalist. And Tatia's dad worked with Michelle. Now, there was no conspiracy here. Let's be clear. Because I walked into the bar upstairs and say, hey, we're going to say, wait a minute, I know that name. And therefore, she spoke when we had the phone call, and I was excited, and Michelle was excited, and Andrew was excited. That got all of us excited. So is indeed a privilege and honor. This is one of the best parts of the job of being president. To award you one of our scholarships, National Press Club Diversity Scholarship Award. Congratulations. Michelle, get in the picture. Good? Okay. Excellent. Congratulations. Yes, absolutely. Please.
Hi, I have a little speech. Thank you. So, thank you so much for having me. I'm honestly just in shock right now. I never thought at such a young age that I would be in a room full of such accomplished journalists. And I want to begin by thanking the National Press Club and the Scholarship Selection Committee for awarding me with the Diversity Award. Words cannot even begin to express my gratitude. Instead, I will tell you a little bit of what the scholarship will help me to do. As a Diversity Award recipient, I will be able to study what I love and what I have a true passion for, which is journalism. And most importantly, I will be able to follow and honor my father's legacy as a professional journalist. This particular recognition reinforces my commitment and focus to always encourage diversity wherever I go, as it is such an important aspect of life. As a journalist, I promise to write fair and balanced stories. I promise to be ethical in everything that I do, especially when it's hard. And I promise to seek the truth no matter how ugly. As an investigative journalist, which I hope to become, I promise to hold public figures accountable for their actions, something that will be particularly crucial for a democracy in the next 4 years. Lastly, I would like to thank my parents, Thomas and Fania Monet, for just nurturing me and reinforcing my tenacity and just teaching me the importance of a free press and just the importance of persistence. And this award really, to me, it's sort of like the journalism community sort of like opening their arms and saying, hello, welcome. So, so yeah, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me.
And we're just getting started. Our second scholarship, we have 3 tonight. The National Press Club Richard G. Zimmerman Scholarship is awarded to, hold on, David Lindenmuth of Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, my home state, yes. Now, the scholarship is a one-time award of $5,000. David created and maintained on his own the Shenandoah Sentinel newspaper website that covers Schuylkill County. The Facebook page for the Sentinel has an upwards of 3,000 followers. Besides covering daily local news in high school, David was active in his gifted program, Quiz Bowl, and as a member of his band's Honor Guard. Haley Bianco, reporter with WBRE and WYOU in Scranton, I know a little about that station, wrote David a recommendation letter for the scholarship. It's an excerpt. One of the sites I check daily is the Shenandoah Sentinel. It is a professional site with interesting and compelling news stories. When I found out that high school senior David Lindenmuth was the only person behind the operation, I was shocked, impressed, and curious. I wanted to know how a teenager was running his own professional news site. So David and I became friends in the field. David's high school does not offer any journalism opportunities. But that didn't stop him. He wanted to learn. He wanted to experience. He created his own website, and he learned by doing. When he's not at school, he's out covering stories. He works at Borough Hall and school board meetings, around the clock, waking up in the middle of the night when the fire alarms go off, spending hours at Borough Hall, just to get a story that no one else will have. As you can imagine, working on a high school student's income, what income? I don't know. But this will put a few dollars in your wallet here. It's challenging, but look at the work and you never know. The quality of David's reporting reflects that of the professional newspapers and TV stations of that market. That's coming from one of us who's actually earning a few dollars looking at David. Congratulations, David.
Well, he did a very good job of summing me up, so that kind of takes out a bit of the first half of my speech. Well, so with that, I'll begin by thanking the National Press Club and the committee behind the scholarship for selecting me as their scholarship winner, and for the opportunity to travel down here all the way from the Anthracite Coal region of Pennsylvania to speak to all of you. In December 2015, as he said, I started the Shenandoah Sentinel as a junior in high school to explore a career interest I had in media, specifically journalism. In the absence of a school newspaper, that's why I started it, and to see if it was something I really wanted to do. Along with that, I held an internship at WYLN 35, and I've shadowed Haley Bianco at WBRE, worked with her on stories as well, and that's what developed the skills that brought me here. Although it wasn't what I set out to do, I found myself filling an ever-growing news void in the Shenandoah area, which, apart from my efforts, it's shown no signs of slowing. In '95, our community newspaper, the Evening Herald, closed. This year is the first year in 140 that Shenandoah is without a newspaper office. I believe every community deserves a community-oriented news source covering as much as possible in that region, not just the negative headlines. And that's what I've aimed to provide, as that's what Northern Schuylkill County has enjoyed for 120 years until shortly before my time. And hopefully upon graduation from Kutztown in 2021, I can return and continue to provide that community service. I strongly believe headlines like, quote, "The squad terrorizes residents," that was a real one after a Shenandoah council meeting, believe it or not. Usually, they don't improve newspaper sales, the negative headlines. However, headlines like "Corrosis leads Shenandoah to Little League victory" do improve newspaper sales and any sort of reach for journalism because they're the positive things. That's what people want to see. With that being said, I'd like to quote the late Babe Conroy in his last Conroy's Corner column in the final Evening Herald in '95. As sports editor, I was glad that I never became so jaded that I didn't realize how much it meant to a kid to see his name in the paper. Before I conclude, there are quite a few people I have to thank, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be here at all. First, I literally wouldn't be here without her, my mother, Sherry Streeter. If it weren't for her, she's my #1 supporter, my chauffeur, my backup photographer, you name it, she's done it. Thank you, Mom. There she is. Stand up, Ma. Next is Kent Steinmetz, a community leader who's also an avid supporter, and when I was scrambling to find a way from Shenandoah to here, he stepped up and he did not hesitate one bit to get me down here. Kent? Deborah and Andy Ulickney, both of Shenandoah Heights. They've been instrumental in a lot of opportunities I've had, including college, that sort of thing. And if it weren't for them, I would never have been able to intern at WYLN. They got me to and from and made that possible. That leads me to WYLN. Owners Joe and Pat Gans, former news director Ann Gownley, current news director Gary Perna, and their chief videographer Mike Lula for that internship opportunity because it taught me pretty much all I know about covering news out in the field. Special thanks to Mike for being a mentor to me while I was there and, quote, talking my ear off to teach me what he knew. Next is another local TV station based out of Wilkes-Barre, WBRE TV, and their Schuylkill County reporter, Haley Bianco, as mentioned. And she found out about me and has pretty much been another mentor, out working with me on stories and letting me shadow her. Next is the Monterey City Coal Cracker Youth newspaper, and founder, President Krista Gromolski, and their project coordinator, Leslie Richardson, for allowing me to join their paper as a writer-photographer, providing experience working with an editor and publisher instead of as one. The boroughs of Shenandoah, Ashland, Mahanoy City, Girardville, Frackville, Ringtown, Gilberton, the surrounding townships Butler, Mahanoy, West Mahanoy, Union, East Union, and North Union. I'm fortunate to serve some of the most supportive, tight-knit communities in Eastern PA, maybe even the whole country, and it's been an honor and a privilege to serve them and have their support. Without them, the Sentinel wouldn't be where it is today. I wouldn't be here today, and my news reports would go nowhere. There would be nobody to read them if it weren't for them. And I'd like to extend thanks to anybody I may have inadvertently missed. Excuse me. And I'd like to again thank the Scholarship Committee, the National Press Club, and all of you for listening to me, and the National Press Club and Scholarship Committee for the opportunity to be here and speak to you. Thank you.
What did you ask me when you came in tonight? Do you remember?
I don't believe.
He asked me where could he put his gear.
Oh yeah, I have my camera back here because I'm covering this for the Sentinel. This is going up tonight. I'm the only media from Northeastern PA here. Because yeah, that's why I'm wearing this.
He's ready to go. Who's ready to hire our scholarship recipients? You got Tatiana, you got David. Wow, he comes from a part of my state what we call coal cracker country. It produced the likes of both Governors Casey and current Senator Casey. If you follow the business closely, and if any ties to New York, or if you spend any time watching local DC television, for a long time there was an anchor named Michael Gargiulo here at WTGG, Fox 5. Before he came to TGG, where I worked at one point, Michael worked at WBRE. So things are possible, David. Things are possible. And now he's in New York at NBC, working at the NBC affiliate in New York. So great things to come from our scholarship winners. Our last scholarship winner of the night, Jenny Dupuis Davis. She's the winner of our Shirley and Dennis Feldman Fellowship for Graduate Students in Journalism, an award of $5,000. Jennifer's recommendation letters described her as being humble, responsible, hungry, as having courage, tenacity, and natural curiosity. She graduated magna cum laude in 2015 from the University of Wisconsin with a major in journalism and minor in PR. I know there's some Midwesterners in here. I know the Missouri Mafia is in here too, to some degree. Angela Greiling-King, I know my predecessor, and Suzanne, their Missouri graduate. Joe Morton, our former governor. So they know where you come from. She's been supporting herself, freelancing, working for a bike maker, and waitressing. That's all good old-fashioned hard Scrabble work. She's a photographer. She's one of 10 students, 10, accepted into the International Photojournalism Fall Program at the prestigious Danish School of Media and Journalism. So they scour worldwide and only accept 10 students, and she's one of them. So the work Jennifer submitted was beautiful and evocative, and she plans to become, listen now, Noel, you're gonna have to mentor her, a photojournalist. So And the folks in the back, I see. So she's coming to help, mentor her in our home state of Wisconsin. So come on up, Jenny, get your scholarship. Podium is yours.
Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Jenny Dupuy. I am so happy to be here. I have to thank the National Press Club for everything that you're doing, especially the Feldman family. I'm so grateful for this scholarship, and especially, I have so many people to thank for this. My boyfriend, Tony, he's over there taking photos right now. My mentor from college, Ann Kanabi, she's sitting right here. My parents. I have a mentor also in photojournalism. His name's Craig Schreiner in Wisconsin as well. He's really helped me with everything. I'm honored to be up here right now. I never really thought going overseas was possible. This is my first time, and I'm very nervous. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. So I just can't believe this is happening, and on top of being accepted to this program, this scholarship just means so much to me. It really is helping me beyond the hustle that I have done this past, year and a half. I went to Whitewater, Wisconsin for journalism and communications. I graduated in 2015, and since then I've been kind of doing jobs all over the board. I left a job at Trek Bicycle in May after a round of layoffs. So, this scholarship is just really getting me there. I really could not be more thankful.
That's one of the best parts of the night, to be able to reward wonderful students and making sure that the profession is well served, the Constitution is protected, and that we all are informed by their wonderful, wonderful, wonderful work. So congratulations, Tatiana, David, Jenny. Don't forget to write us. We do get letters from our scholarship award recipients from time to time, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And the sky's the limit. So reporters find themselves often in dangerous parts of the world and challenging parts of the profession. And journalists can draw the unwelcome attention to those who seek to do us harm. So let's take a moment to reflect for our journalism brothers and sisters who are working around the world so they can finish out the shift, file the stories, and be safe tonight. Thank you. And that brings us, to some interesting and solemn parts of our night tonight. Whenever a journalist takes the field, danger may be very close by. And it was so for Sharnice Milton, a young community journalist here in Washington, D.C., who was coming home late from covering a meeting. She was waiting for a bus transfer on Good Hope Road, and that road is not very far from my house now. Sharnice found herself between a shooter and his target, who was also waiting for the bus. The target grabbed her and turned her into a human shield. The bullet found Sharnice. The crime has not yet been solved to this day. We at the National Press Club call on the District of Columbia to step up its efforts to solve the case of Sharnice Milton, who died at age 27. Tonight, Sharnice's mother, Francine Milton, her stepfather, Ken McClinton, are here with us, along with Andrew Lightman of Capital Community News, who is Charnice's employer. I'm going to ask them to stand and receive your applause. Thank you. Thank you again, Francine and Andrew. Some of you may have read in the Washington Post, a new bookstore honoring Charnice is recently opened in Southeast Washington. And as a resident of east of the river of Washington, D.C., in Anacostia, I'm very happy to hear about this. They're crowdfunding for it. So do a little Google search, and if you have the resources, please help and get it up and running. Also here tonight are two people who faced unspeakable danger and suffered tremendously because they were doing their jobs as journalists. Jason resigned of the Washington Post, and his wife, Yayi, also a journalist, were ripped from their home in Tehran, Iran on July 22nd, 2014 by the security forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They took them directly to Evin prison. They suffered in solitary and suffered all manner of rough treatment from their jailers for many, many months. Yayi was eventually released on the condition that she would not practice journalism. But Jason was held for 544 days. An act of barbaric cruelty by Iran. The human wingspan is height plus about 2 inches. So if your wingspan is about 6 feet, imagine 1 foot on either side. That's about 8 feet, and that's about the cell they were in during solitary. 8 feet from side to side, 4.5 feet from front to back. That was their world. And they are our members. We are glad they are here with us tonight in this room filled with friends and colleagues. Jason, Yayi, stand and receive our ranks. And those of you who happened to be in the ballroom in January when I was inaugurated, Jason recorded a heartfelt message charging me to make sure I did a good job, made sure I stood up, spoke truth to power. I've been doing a heck of a lot of that, Jason. And so much more. He just wrapped up a Neiman Fellowship, and for those of you who don't know what that is, there are a number of fellowships where journalists can take out time in their careers to study and write and pursue a particular subject matter of interest to become better journalists. The Neiman is based at Harvard. So they've been spending the last year in Cambridge. Now they're back home. And Jason's writing a book. And we know it's going to come, eventually he's going to bring it here to the press club so we can talk about what he's been writing about, his experiences, and so many other things that he's been focusing on. We're so glad you're home. I don't know about your Clippers this season. He's a Warriors, sorry. The Warriors. I was gonna get thrown under the bus there on my own volition. But the Warriors, he's a huge fan of the Warriors and a huge fan of Star Wars. We were glad that was the first two things. When he got out of prison, he said, I want to see Star Wars and I want to see the Warriors. Thank God he was able to see both. And they are not just members in name only, they are part of our press freedom team and are encouraging us to do what we do best and leading by example. Finally, with us here tonight are the parents of a young television reporter, Allison Parker, whose career was on the kind of trajectory that would have taken her to the heights of her profession that she and her photographer, Adam Ward, had not been shot dead live on air in the morning news by Smith Mountain in Virginia. Here's what we want you to know about Allison. She was an accomplished dancer, an outstanding reporter, and so many other things. Allison's parents, Andy and Barbara Parker, are here with us tonight, and they've become very strong advocates for gun control, mental health support, which we need more of that, and Allison would be proud of them in accomplishing everything they're doing in her name. Andy, Barbara, stand and take a bow, please. Thank you, Andy and Barbara. And I just want you all to know that at Allison's alma mater, James Madison University, which is just down the road, they've just dedicated recently the broadcast studio in her memory. And Allison's folks have established a foundation in her memory that will assist young people in education. So when we think of journalism, we think about Allison Parker, we think about Sharnice Milton, we think about Jason and Reggie Rezayan and the risks they and others like them took to bring their city, their state, and the world to the point where we all could understand what those entities are about. It is our hope that our government, the United States government, would also think about Allison, Sharnice, Jason, and Yegi, and all the journalists that they put at risk when they encourage violence against them. It's not, when we're growing up, we say sticks and stones may break our bones, but names will never hurt me. But this is not a partisan statement. When the leader of the free world trashes the Fourth Estate, he undermines the Constitution. He or she undermines what we believe in, the information which we seek, so that people can live a free and productive life. And it also gives license to rogue operators around the world to suppress free information, to suppress the freedom of people around the world. So it has real world consequences. People die. People are jailed. So saying this fake news thing is not a game here at the National Press Club. It's serious business. And it's important that as much as you may like or not like a different particular news organization, when you trash it, when you say they are lying, when you say they are not about the business of truth, you are giving license to people to jail and kill journalists. And that, here at the National Press Club, we have drawn a very bright line. We will not stand for it. We will speak truth to power when it happens, and we will defend our colleagues every single day. So, Mr. President, if you're watching or listening, you should know better. Which brings me to the last, we have some more awards tonight. Hold on. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to skip this one. We're going to get to these in a minute. We're going to get back to there's so many wonderful honors we're going to hand out tonight. We're going to get to the regional awards now. The Washington Regional Reporting Award. Now, the person who wins this award, and this person kind of knows who they are, they're not just wonderful in the profession, they're fantastic on the softball field. Now, both the winner and the honorable mention share this distinction. And that's important because every year there's a wonderful congressional softball game which raises money for breast cancer. And it's a wonderful experience to see the press in a friendly environment playing members of Congress on the softball diamond. It's kind of like how we do here in the club, and sources and journalists can get together over a drink and actually be civil. It happens. So the winner of the Washington Regional Reporting Award in this year is Abby Livingston of the Texas Tribune. I know she's sitting over there. Come up here, Abby. Other than being mean on the field, and I've seen it, because a bunch of us in the press club went over there and watched the ladies play. The judges said her stories were authoritative and smartly written. They were very effective in telling readers what makes Washington tick. So, Abby, come get your award.
Thank you.
You can actually say something if you'd like.
Was not prepared for that. I think that in my small world, that is Texas of 27 million people, I really just set out to explain Washington and understand my delegation. We have 7 chairmen. We have the Senate Majority Whip, and we also have Ted Cruz. So it's a never-ending experience, drama. They're relevant. They're in the middle of every debate. And I took it very seriously. My stories run in the local newspapers, and I just very much felt passionate that Washington matters, and the readers in Texas need to know that. And I just want to thank my friends who came. I invited all journalists and my dad. And Sandy Livingston. And he is the reason I'm a 7th generation Texan. And so I very much passionately, my favorite people are Texans, and I just want to make them informed. And I also just am very appreciative to the people who educated me in the public school system in Texas, my English teachers in high school, my college professors, and all of my mentors here in Washington. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Honorable mention, same table, goes to Sarah Wire of the Los Angeles Times for creative coverage of the California delegation. Come on up here, Sarah. also a member of the softball team. The winner of the Edwin M. Hood Diplomatic Award for diplomatic correspondence, is Reuters. For their coverage of the Iran prisoner hostage swap. Joel Sheckman, Yegana Trabati, Matt Page, Leslie Rotten, Patricia Zengerli, and Ross Colvin took a close look at the exchange that freed Americans in Iran in exchange for prisoners held in the United States, and that includes Jason Rezaian. So the award is named for a former diplomatic correspondent for the Associated Press. The winners, come on up. Get your awards.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. We have the slip out here for the
I negotiated a few words.
well, let's do the photo first, and then we'll do the words. No, you hold it. This is your
That's
award.
ours.
Go ahead.
So, thank you very much. Jeff, being a TV man, I said 2 minutes. He said, no, 1 minute. And then I said, okay, fine. So, thank you very much. But I wanted to dedicate this, first of all, not only my colleagues, because it really was a team event, but also to Jason and Yagi. This is because of you. We were following the Iran prisoners that were in the United States. We were tracking what was going on with you. Several months ahead of your release, we learned of your possible freedom. We agreed that not to endanger your release, and said we wouldn't publish it until that was, and so it was a deal that we made, that we would have front row seat on your release. When I got to Geneva, they said no, it could be in Vienna. Rushed to Vienna, met up with John Kerry there. They said no, it was back in Switzerland. Rushed back there. We never got to see you, but this is dedicated to you and to the 259 other journalists that have put themselves in the front row and put their lives at stake to cover the story, just like you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Team Reuters. Next is the competition for the Arthur Rouse Award for Press Criticism, which is sponsored by former U.S. News and World Report reporter Arthur Rouse. These awards honor excellence in examining the role of the work of the profession of journalism. Here to accept the award is David Zurich. David, I know you're in the house. David Zurich. I don't know if you read his column, but David writes a hell of a column. I do read it. And thank you for come on up here and get your picture, and appreciate it.
Actually, Mr. Rouse told me I shouldn't say anything, so the other person had a minute. Thanks to the press club. Thanks to the judges who took the time to judge us. Thanks, Mr. Rouse, for endowing this award, for establishing it. Press criticism is more important than ever, I think. We have fewer and fewer press critics being employed by publications and by various platforms. And so most of all, I want to thank Trifalatsis, our publisher and editor, who was kind enough to drive down with me, and more importantly, kind enough to let me cover the press as culture and politics. There aren't many places where you can do that anymore.
Thanks again, Mr. Rouse. Appreciate you for endowing this award. Honorable mention, my good friend Paul Farhi, The Washington Post. I know you're over here. Who likewise has wonderfully smart reporting on immediate issues. Appreciate you. Hold on a minute. Where's the? There we go. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it. I've known David for almost 20 years, I think. Wow. Before I had gray hair. The broadcast winner, David Folkenflik of National Public Radio. His work, this is his second trip to the press club. He was given the Bart Richards Award of Media Criticism from my alma mater, Penn State University, in the room next door where you were having cocktails. And so he's back now to get our award for the same power. His work offered listeners a mix of good reporting and the power of little details to drive a story, such as President Trump's concern over stories of his hand size. Let's listen to a sample of his work, shall we?
To make the stakes very clear, the casino mogul dangled $200,000 for Smith's daughter's medical treatment if Smith would admit libel, a cardinal journalistic sin. Instead, Smith filed for bankruptcy. Court documents cited more than $200,000 in legal fees and medical bills he could not pay.
I thought it was particularly cruel, quite frankly. But, we just soldiered on.
I asked Ron Reese about that suit. He's a senior vice president at the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, controlled by the Adelson family.
Las Vegas Sands operates in an extremely competitive and highly regulated industry, which requires complete transparency and the highest ethical standards.
As a result, Reese says, Adelson's reputation means everything.
Whether it's careless reporting or malicious political attacks that impugn his reputation, he frankly has an obligation to the company's shareholders and the 50,000 employees of this company to set the record straight.
After several years, Adelson dropped the libel suit against Smith. Smith emerged from bankruptcy in early 2011. Smith and his wife divorced several months later, and he subsequently wrote about his own treatment for cancer.
Come on up, David.
I'd like to very much thank the National Press Club for this, the Rouse family for their sustained commitment to this. I want to highlight my friend and former colleague David Zurwick, my old stablemate at the Baltimore Sun for over a decade, who put up with me when I was just learning a little bit about how to cover the media. The media is a funny beat. I tend to think that editors, Paul Farhi knows this well, often think of us as either internal affairs or like when the pitcher goes to bat in National League games. I mean, they just hope that you desperately don't embarrass them, and if you happen to do something good, that's just a net plus. I think that it's important to look at journalism and the institutions that make it up and affect it the same way that we look at all other major institutions of society for praise, for criticism, for scrutiny. And in this era, and in all eras, but particularly now, that we think about also what's really at core. Why are we doing this? And we're doing it because we care about the flow of information to the public. We care about this because people need to be equipped not just to be consumers, but to be citizens. And that's what we do, and that's what all journalists do. I think about people like the Rezaians and others who have given so much in so many ways, but all of the people who work for the kinds of institutions represented here tonight, I think, take on that mission in some way as they go about their job. I'm so delighted this story was highlighted today about the Las Vegas Review-Journal. John L. Smith, the columnist whose voice you achingly heard in that brief excerpt, is a guy who didn't face mortal peril from foes of his journalism per se, but who was a hero and who stood up to the most powerful person in his city, in his state, and as it turns out, who became his boss and didn't flinch. And I hope that we all could have that courage when we're faced with such choices. I thank you so much for this honor tonight. Take care.
Thank you, David. This is my first job in Washington working at NPR. The winner of the Newsletter Journalism Award goes to E&E News for Busted, the Last Oil Boom, a thoroughly researched and nicely illustrated overview of the oil industry's boom-bust cycle. Accepting the award is Pamela King. Pamela, you're in the house.
I really didn't come prepared for a speech, but I'd like to thank my colleagues Margie and Mike and our editors Amy and Joel. Thank you so much for shaping our stories. Thank you to the Press Club and to the judges for reading our work. Thank you so much.
Honorable mention goes to American Banker for What is Esther George Thinking? A perceptive look at a member of the Fed that demonstrates the crucial reach of trade press and newsletters. Accepting the award is John Heldman. Breaking news time. The winner of the Breaking News Award for excellence in breaking news reporting is Bloomberg News, coverage of the Brexit vote. The judges said the coverage was smart, fast, informative, and put the vote in global perspective with economic context. Who's here to accept the award tonight for Bloomberg? Oh, a whole team of you guys. All right, come on up.
This is the guy who's accepting for the post. Cap is okay. That's up next.
Got it, got it.
Thank you very much to the Press Club for this honour, for the judges for taking the time to award it to us. We accept it on behalf of Bloomberg and all the reporters back in London who worked so hard last June. And thanks to the fickle British voters, if they'd voted in the way they told the pollsters they were going to vote, we wouldn't be here, wouldn't have this great award. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Honorable mention goes to the Washington Post for fast-moving, excellent coverage of the Orlando nightclub shooting. Accepting the award is David Bruns. Next is the competition for the Lee Walsack Award for Political Analysis, and we have members of the Walsack family here tonight. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Maria Reciso, a correspondent for the Austin American Statesman, and her daughter here tonight. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you, Maria and Alana. And Alana's a senior at the University of Maryland right now, right? So those of you who are Terps will understand that. The winner of the award in the name of the Walsack family, David Fahrenthold of the Washington Post. Now, you've heard, if you haven't heard this name by now, you might have been under a little bit of a journalism rock. He's a Pulitzer winner this year. He very kindly, we saw his body of work and how he deeply investigated the president's then candidate, Donald Trump's promises on money to veterans and a whole list of things that didn't quite turn out to be true. And the Pulitzer Committee awarded him accordingly. He came here to the club and addressed the members in the Cal report, and then spent extra time with our younger members to mentor them. And that's important too. We really, really appreciate that. So, come on up, David, and get your award.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say a brief thank you to my wife, Elizabeth Lewis, who's here, who, in addition to serving as sort of my shadow editor, the person I talked through all my stories with, also had to handle the burden of a husband who was gone all the time last year and saved the life of our fish, Nemo, who after many weeks of me being gone and her taking care of 2 kids at home, turned from his natural purple color into sort of the color of a manila envelope and was miraculously saved at the last minute. We almost lost him. I just want to say thank you to my editors, Peter Walston and Cameron Barr, who were here, and to Jenna Johnson, my colleague, who is here, who, while I was sitting on my butt calling charities, traveled to how many hundred Donald Trump rallies all around the country and got yelled at by the people who were probably mad at me, but couldn't get to me because I was in the office. So thank you to everybody who made that possible. I also just wanted to say thank you to the Walczyk family. I did not have the privilege of knowing Lee, but I know he was a famous shaper of people and a shaper of words, and I'm really honored to get an award in his name. Thank you.
Thank you, David. An honorable mention goes to John Hilsenrath and Bob Davis of the Wall Street Journal for their in-depth look at the politics of trade in 2016 and how it affected communities hard hit by imports and helped propel the candidacy of Donald Trump. Accepting the award is John Hilsenrath. Next up, the Ann Cottrell Free Animal Reporting Awards. The next award is named in memory of Ann Cottrell Free, a National Press Club member who wrote extensively about animals and their welfare. Her daughter Alyssa is with us tonight. Where is she? Stand up and be recognized. The winner of this year's Ann Cottrell Free Award for print is the Chicago Tribune for the Price of Pork, a revealing look at the cruelty in large hog confinement facilities around the state of Illinois. The Tribune's David Jackson, Gary Marks, Stacey Westcott, and Madison Hopkins were able to put 19 Illinois hog confinement workers on record to describe the mistreatment of pigs they witnessed and in one case inflicted. David Jackson, come on up and accept the award.
I'm really humbled to accept this award on behalf of my colleagues at the Tribune and be here with the scholarship winners, with the families of the departed, with journalists who I read and admire. I think that one of the big stories in America right now, obviously, is the growing gulf between big urban centers and small towns. When we set out to figure out where our food came from and how it was made, farming families across Illinois really took us into their kitchens, into their barns, onto their fields, into their lives, and let us learn about the work that they did. And I think they did so because they ultimately learned that journalism and journalists hold up an extremely high standard about truth, about accuracy, about conveying to readers what we learn. And I I really thank the Press Club for carrying that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, David. An honorable mention goes to Rachel Bale of National Geographic for taking a hard look at common wildlife tourism practices such as swimming with dolphins, riding elephants, and photo opportunities with lions and tigers. Rachel, where are you? There you are. The winner for broadcast is KDFW for a series on animal cruelty in Dallas. Their investigation showed that there were many calls about cruelty, but few ever made it all the way to court for prosecution. Let's look at a sample of their work, shall we?
Heather and Steve, we were shocked to find out that the system to investigate animal cruelty is so badly broken. No one group is tracking all cases in Dallas from start to finish.
3-year-old Khaleesi is a rescue dog named after a character in the popular drama Game of Thrones. Like the mother of dragons, Khaleesi is known for her courage and spirit.
Everybody that meets her is like, why would anybody want to hurt her? She's just so sweet. I can't imagine.
Amanda Deaton took in Khaleesi after learning she had suffered horrific abuse.
So her scarring, I think it goes from right about here to over here.
4 months ago, firefighters responded to a suspected arson at a home in southwest Dallas. They found Khaleesi outside, malnourished and critically injured, her throat slit. A month later, investigators arrested and charged William DeMond Mathonican with felony arson. But Dallas police never looked into who slit Khaleesi's throat.
KDFW, where are you? Come up and accept your award.
I got the 11th hour deputization. Just a little context about what went wrong in Dallas. They had a study commissioned because the animal problem in Dallas was so bad, and it found that there were 7,000 dogs running loose in one part of the city alone. And we thought that that's what woke people up. We had already had an Army veteran, an older woman who had been mauled to death by a dog. The city was woken up. We got on board with the story, but what we didn't really appreciate until these people started digging into the data was that the city had no idea how bad its problem was because the Animal Services Department has no police powers. The police have no interest in doing anything with crimes involving pets, involving animals. And it was that system that was so badly broken, it might as well have not even existed. The people you see up here, they dug into the data, they asked the hard questions, and they put up with the abuse, to be perfectly honest. We were talking earlier about the deputy police chief who uttered those wonderful words, "You're an investigative reporter, you should be able to find that." And yet they persevered. Everyone here is not a full-time investigative team. They came together and they got this job done and they changed the system for the better. So, thank you.
The honorable mention, right here in Washington, WRC-TV. Channel NBC4 Washington for Trouble on the Tracks. The News 4i team of Scott McFarlane, Rick Yarbrough, and Jeff Piper discovered a system of failures such as that wasn't following its own safety guidelines and rules contributed to the numerous deaths horses at the Charlestown racetrack in West Virginia, just down the road. Let's see a sample.
Track officials told us the rate of horses dying locally is actually about the same as the rate nationwide. But something is different at this track, much different. Our investigation found of the nearly 35 major thoroughbred horse racing tracks nationwide, only one has as many races each year as they have here in Charlestown. West Virginia state law requires at least 220 race days each year, winter included. The Humane Society questions whether there are enough healthy, qualified horses to run all those races.
It costs a lot to maintain these tracks, and they want to fill as many race days as they can.
Scott, Rick, Jeff, come on up. The next award is a bit special to me. Every year, the National Press Club president gives his own award or her own award to a colleague, either in the club or elsewhere in the profession, for something that they have left a lasting impression upon the club or on the profession. And this year was an easy call. We're just about barely a week or so of having mourned the loss of Jim Vance. Jim Vance is a trusted colleague who came to this market and for 48 years came into the homes of Washington, D.C. and regional viewers, and for equally as long became one with this city. Before I get further into my remarks, we're going to play a retrospect on Jim by his longtime co-anchor, Doreen Gensler.
We did the story in our 6 o'clock broadcast. You never know what's going to be amusing or terrifying. And I'm Jim Vance.
Here's the Jim Vance you knew for 48 years. That smooth voice and calm presence that made us all feel like no matter how bad the news was, we would be okay. Over the years, Vance was who he was. You probably know a lot about him already. He wasn't shy about sharing. You know he rode motorcycles. He liked cars and fishing and sports and mixing it up with whomever was reporting on sports.
What did he say?
Vance always had a way with kids. Before becoming a journalist, he was a teacher in his hometown of Philadelphia. He started reporting here in 1969. But from the start, the bosses knew they had an anchor in the making. He made a name for himself covering stories all over the world: Vietnam, El Salvador, South Africa. But he didn't have to go far for some of his best work, reporting on the people right here in his adopted hometown of Washington. Think about every event, every big story that's happened here over the last 48 years. Vance covered it all. The race riots on U Street and in Columbia Heights, the plane that crashed into the 14th Street Bridge, Watergate, the attempted assassination of President Reagan, 9/11. He covered inaugurations for 12 presidents and all 7 of Washington's mayors. In 1977, Vance was the guy the Hanafi Muslims asked to speak to the night they seized 3 buildings in town. And he was the first journalist Marion Barry called after he was arrested in 1990. Vance interviewed every president, some at the White House, others on a fishing boat, and he gave his view with a dose of reality that could be refreshing, even if you didn't agree with him. Vance had some dark times here, too, and some struggles of his own that are well known. But he came out of those a better person and always used the lessons he had to learn the hard way to try to make life better for students trying to navigate their own paths.
From this podium, when I was inaugurated, I spoke a lot about the bridges that brought me to this station as president. I spoke about Simeon Booker, who broke the Emmett Till case, who at 98 helped swear me into office in January. There are people who helped build bridges, people who help build paths, to bring new journalists along, to help mentor new journalists, to help go beyond the profession and become one with their communities and become candid, trusted voices. Jim Vance is one of those people whose path made it possible for me to stand at this podium. It's my privilege, it is my honor to bring back the News 4 team. Mike Olick, with his news director, is here to accept posthumously the National Press Club President's Award to Jim Vance.
I'd like to thank the National Press Club on behalf of Jim's family, his friends, and his coworkers at NBC4. Jim always saw himself as the grandson of a plumber. No better than anyone, but he was. He was the best. He was the best writer, the best mentor, the best coworker, and the best friend many of us ever knew. Vance once told the Washingtonian magazine that being Jim Vance in Washington is a pretty good gig. He said it's a whole lot better to be noticed than to be ignored. And he loved that people told him that they felt that they knew him, and he was welcomed into their houses and with their families. You've heard the highlights of his career this week on our air and in the Washington Post. Thank you, Paul. Fantastic. But they bear repeating. He started as a reporter at WRC in 1969. He became an anchor in 1972, making him one of the first African-American anchormen in a major market in America. The team of Vance, Doreen, Bob, and George, and for those of you who aren't from here, look them up. They're amazing. Anchored the top-rated newscast in this town for decades. He won dozens of awards. He was inducted into the local Emmy chapter's Silver Circle for 25 years of excellence. He was a recipient of their Board of Governors Award in 2014, and he was inducted into the National Association of Black Journalists Hall of Fame in 2007. WRC President and General Manager Jackie Bradford always liked to say that Vance was always the coolest dude in the room. And he was. We'll miss him, we loved him, and we'll never forget him. We thank you again for this honor. He would have loved it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really, really appreciate you coming through. Earlier in the cocktail reception, I said everybody has a Vance story. If you want mine, you'll have to get the cocktails afterwards, but it's fun. We all have wonderful stories about Jim Vance, and there's a sense of encouragement that he gave to so many for so long. Now, to the Joan M. Friedenberg Online Journalism Award. The award is named in memory of Joan M. Friedenberg, founding editor of the Online NewsHour, who is married to former Press Club President Jonathan Salant. For innovative use of online technology to tell a story, the winner of the Joan M. Friedenberg Online Journalism Award is Reuters for Unsafe at Any Level. Unsafe at Any Level was a look at the lead water crisis in Flint, Michigan. The judges commended M.B. Pellin and Joshua Schneier for the really important reporting on a crucial topic. An interactive graphic allowed readers to search different cities to see how they were affected. Let's look at a sample of what they found.
Some of the neighborhoods with the highest percentage of lead-poisoned children in the state of Missouri are here in St. Joseph. In these neighborhoods, about 1 in 5 children tested had elevated blood lead levels. By way of comparison, in Flint, Michigan, about 5% of children tested had elevated blood lead levels at the peak of that city's lead crisis. In St. Joseph, the number was twice that.
Dr. Cynthia Brownfield, a pediatrician in St. Joseph, who renovated a Victorian home on Museum Hill, says even her kids developed high lead levels.
2 of my children did test positive for elevated lead levels, and one of them was pretty high at a level of 23. Lead was in multiple places. We had a lot of it on our faux-grained painted window sashes. That was probably our biggest exposure, but it was also in our clawfoot tubs, our fireplace tiles, and even in the soil around our house.
MB Pell, come on up.
Thank you, everybody. My colleague Joshua Schneer had a speech written for me tonight. I forgot it at the hotel room. I really apologize for that. It was super clever. I don't remember a whole bunch about it. Keira Knightley was mentioned throughout, I mean constantly, almost weirdly, to be honest with you. But I really do want to thank the National Press Club and for shining the light on this problem, because there are hundreds of thousands of kids each year who are diagnosed with elevated lead levels, and I hope this gets a little bit more attention for this issue. Thanks a lot.
The honorable mention goes to Fusion's Christina Constantini, Darren Foster, and Mariana Van Zeller, and other staff for death by fentanyl. A strong visual look at how the opioid crisis is hitting America. Let's take a look at a clip from their work.
We have just arrived at police headquarters in Taunton, Massachusetts, and are settling in to speak with crime analyst Jen Bastille.
Yeah, so the 911 call would come in, it would go to the ambulance, and the ambulance
when the interview is suddenly interrupted.
Another overdose. So yeah, so Matt just called us. There's another overdose. We'll be back then.
Okay.
Quick, guys. So we just gone into the police department here. We were in there for about 5 minutes when they got the call that there's an overdose close by, right?
Yeah, right down the street.
Right down the street.
Yeah.
So we're heading out there.
1319 is all.
So this happens a lot, Matt?
A couple times a day at least. A couple times a shift, I should say.
I mean, that's a lot. How many, what's the population of Taunton? Is like 50,000?
About 55,000, yeah. Most I've had in one shift while I was working, we had 9 one time.
We congratulate Fusion. We're going to send their award to them. They could not be here with us tonight. Wonderful, powerful journalism. The winner of the Sandy Hume Memorial Award for Excellence in Political Journalism is Robert Federici of ProPublica. Federici's story on the lobbying battles surrounding the requirements for sprinklers was an outstanding case study on the influence of money in politics. His award will be sent to him. Congratulations to him. Honorable mention goes to Jenna Johnson of the Washington Post. For stories that were very well written and insightful. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. The winner of the Joseph D. Ryle Award for writing on the problems of geriatrics is Kaiser Health News. Anna Gorman for Diagnosis Unprepared, a look at vital issues, such as the gap between when patients leave the hospital and return home. The judges complimented the diversity in coverage and links to other resources that were extremely useful, giving older readers and their family members specific places to go for information and help. Anna, Come on up.
Thank you so much to the Press Club, and thank you to Kaiser Health News, where I'm lucky enough to work. And thank you to some of your publications for running my stories and all of our stories, the Washington Post, NPR, and elsewhere. This is a really important issue. One of the sources that I interviewed said, the older you are, the worse the hospital is for you. And it's not obvious, it's not for the obvious reasons of infections. It's for common things like not letting you get enough sleep or not checking that your medications are the same. Or not checking which medications you're taking. So if some of you haven't dealt with this for yourselves, for your parents, you're going to. So I encourage you to definitely pay attention to this issue, and I'm glad to have been able to delve into this topic in a comprehensive way. And this year marks 20 years of being a journalist, many years for, thank you. At the Los Angeles Times in the last 3.5 years at Kaiser Health News. And like many of us in the room, I feel really lucky to be able to be part of a profession that is so important, even on a week like this in healthcare, where my colleagues and I have been a little bit busy. So thank you so much.
The honorable mention in the same category goes to the San Francisco Chronicle for Last Men Standing, a perceptive and sensitive look at survivors of AIDS. The writing was powerful, yet sensitive, and the graphics really brought home the work that ties everything together. The Chronicle also offers a movie version of the project, which is an excellent documentary feature in the eyes of the judges. Their award will be sent to them. This brings us to the Michael Dornheim Award. Michael was a very talented aviation writer with Aviation Week and Space Technology, who tragically died in a car crash more than a decade ago. His brother Daniel is here. Where are you, Daniel? Stand up and be recognized. Thank you. The winner of the Michael Dornheim Award for Excellence of Coverage of Aviation, Defense, and Related Issues is Elon Head of Vertical Magazine for investigative pieces on helicopter safety. She explored the need for more cockpit and flight data recorders in a catastrophic event in 2 rotor systems likely caused by design problems. Accepting the award, Elon Head. Come on up.
So I come from a family of very talented writers, one of whom is my uncle, Andy Stone, who was the editor of Aspen Times for many years. And about 9 years ago, when I started working for Vertical Magazine, he asked me a little tongue-in-cheek whether I intended to bring great journalism to the helicopter industry. And I said, well, yeah. So one of the things that's most meaningful to me about this award is the recognition that the things that make journalism so valuable really do apply to all markets and to all audiences, no matter how small or how niche. So first of all, thank you very much to the Dornheim family. It's such an honor to receive this award in the memory of such an amazing person. I have to thank my publishers, Mike and Linda Reno, who have been so supportive of me, even when I caused them a lot of problems. I'd like to thank my boyfriend, John, who's a helicopter pilot. He couldn't be here tonight because he's out west fighting wildfires. And I'd like to thank my mom, who could be here tonight. Not only is she an amazing writer herself, she's always been an example to me of speaking truth to power, even when it causes a lot of problems. So, Mom, thank you very much. So proud of you. One more thing. One of my very first assignments for Vertical Magazine was covering NTSB hearings on the air ambulance industry. And I covered them with Jenna Johnson of the Washington Post. And that's how I met her. And it's so amazing to be here with her tonight, 9 years later. And Jenna, I have such respect for everything you're doing at the Post. Thank you for what you do.
Honorable mention, I talked about this gentleman earlier before. our wonderful press freedom leader. John Donnelly, CQ roll call for his investigative reports on the Air Force's aging fleet of Huey helicopters discovered to be inadequate to handle some critical assignments. Come on up, John. John is also the president of the Military Reporters and Editors Organization. Thank you for serving in that role as well. And I think that's it. Oh, wow. Time to go home. This wraps up our 2017 annual journalism, 44th annual journalism awards. Thank you for everybody who helped judge the awards. Special thanks go out to, especially on the scholarship side, to our Vice President, Andrea Edney, Chair of our Scholarship Committee, Krista White of the National Press Club Journalism Institute, Joanne Booz, our senior staff representative who makes sure everything runs on time, and all of our members and guests, thank you for participating and enjoying the night. Have a good night, safe travels, and we'll see you October 4th.